pleased to be joined by John Murphy and Eric Wood, longtime broadcast partners on the Bills Radio Network. And good to have you guys in here with us today. How are you enjoying your summer, fellas?
It's been great for me. I don't know about Eric, but it's been a great summer for me.
Yeah, it's been great
Eric?
as well. Kids are having fun. We've had all sorts of camps, a little bit of travel, a bunch of golf. So it's been a fun summer.
Well, you guys know, on the day of this announcement, Chris Brown has now been named as Murph's successor as voice of the Buffalo Bills. Eric, you've worked with Chris. Murph, you mentored him and trained him. You've worked with him as well for a number of years. On a day like today, Murph, you know what it's like to take over for an icon. When you did it, Brownie's cut out for the same thing. What advice are you going to give to Brownie as he, gets anointed with this job that so many of us come to, you become part of the family when you're the voice of the Bills. You know that better than anybody, right, Murph?
And look, he's done a year, so he doesn't need my advice. He's done a full year. But the one thing I would tell him to do is enjoy it, relax and enjoy it. And those three and a half hours on a Sunday, there's nothing else that matters, nothing else. And you got to adopt that standpoint every day, no matter what's going on at home with yourself or what's going on with the election or whatever you care about. There's nothing that matters with the game that day. And I think, when you get into it that much, you'll enjoy it.
You know this too. You've worked with both these guys. You've got to be like almost breathing a sigh of relief that, wow, okay, I don't have to break in a new guy. You love both these guys, and you get a chance to make a seamless transition, right?
Yeah, it will be seamless. And Chris has done a great job taking over for Murph the last year or so, and I felt like we made a good team. And so for him to officially be named the play-by-play guy for the broadcast, that's what I was hoping for, and I'm glad to see it come to fruition, and I'm looking forward to another season working with Brownie. He's been easy to work with, just like Murph was. Both those guys have much more broadcast and much more media experience than me. So for the ability for me to go from Murph to then Chris, two professionals, that's as good as it gets for me.
I got to tell you, all right, we can all have a little laugh here now because the team is contending every year. They are a juggernaut. But Murph, we all dredged through the drought years a long time, and now to give the reins to Brownie with a team that is absolutely a wagon, we can all kind of have a chuckle about this, the fortunes of what it is to be a play-by-play guy, right, Murph?
Yeah, I guess so. No, it's hard. You start out, and I'm trying to think today how many years I did when they didn't have a chance of playoffs.
Right.
And I still had fun doing it. I still enjoyed it, but it makes a difference to have a good team and know that you're contending every year.
Yeah, and I don't think we have to tell you this, Murph, but you're always welcome in the booth on game day. So I know
thank you.
I know you enjoyed coming in last year, so you're obviously more than welcome for as long as you want. You want to come in, any day, anytime. Feel free to do that. Because you, as I said on the air this morning with the WGR guys, you set the standard. So now it's my job to uphold that standard. So
yeah, it's fun too because Eric sat next to Murph for all those years, and then now Brownie's right there, and I myself and Maddie. Every Bills fans, they watch the games with the people they love, and they get in a routine and they don't change it. All of us are in this kind of routine. We all watch the game together. Now Murph is sitting back with me instead of Brownie. Now Brownie's in the front seat. Murph's sitting with me. Eric's right in his regular spot. Maddie Glab's sitting there right with us. All the crew, we're all there together, and it's kind of fitting. We're the quintessential Bills fans up in that booth, and I never have apologized being a homer in any broadcast I've done for Buffalo because that's where we live, right, Eric?
Yeah, and Steve, I know that you were secretly hoping that they didn't hire someone as tall as me because I know I block half the booth, and with Chris up there, you and Maddie have a clear sight to the field right over the top of Chris's head.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but Eric's like pulling a curtain over the front of he stands up. But yeah, so guys, really appreciate you coming in, and let's talk about this. This is a team with some transition.
Yeah.
We've been through this a number of times. All of us have been covering. I've been in this building for 30 plus years, and Murph, you too. Brownie's 20 plus, and Eric, you too. Now working on 2 decades. We've seen this team transition before. But with a guy like Josh and with a coach and with a culture instilled already, this seems to be a transition with a little bit of a turnover in the roster that this team may be able to handle. Murph, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I think if you're going to have a transition, it's the best way to do it, to have the quarterback in place. Used to be the transition for who's going to be the quarterback, or they're going to try this year, they're going to try this guy quarterback. Not anymore. Josh is the guy, and as long as he's in charge, and for the next 10 years or so, he'll be leading the way. I think the transition it will be. I think it'll be a few bumps in the road, but I still think they're double-digit wins, and I think Josh will lead the way. And it might even take the second half of the season to get good. The receivers might take to the second half of the season, but they'll be there when the time comes.
Yeah, and there's going to be transition each and every year, and you're transitioning around your core pieces. Well, the core pieces have changed over the last 6-7 years, and so you're moving on from some guys that were household names that maybe Wall of Famers one day, but you've done a great enough job of drafting and bringing guys in that the core has now changed. Josh Allen remains constant, but now you have your franchise left tackle, your stalwart on the offensive line. Deion Dawkins remains the same. Okay, well, you can move some pieces. There can be a different left guard. That's okay when you have a franchise left tackle. You have two great tight ends and maybe an absolute superstar in Dalton Kincaid at tight end. Okay, well, he's still stagnant there. On defense, you have Matt Milano, you have Bernard, you have a number of pieces. You have Ed Oliver up front. You have Christian Benford, who's played incredible through his first couple years with the Bills. Now you have different key pieces that they are the core, the new core of this team. It's no longer, and it's unfortunate. It happens with every organization. It's no longer Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Mitch Morse is kind of that constant in the middle of the offensive line. Okay, you move on from those guys. Well, now you have a new core, and I have plenty of confidence in what this new core could be moving into the future for the Bills.
And while there is a new core, there's also going to be new youth, a lot younger players that are probably going to have some roles mixed in with that core that Eric mentioned, Murph, and we still don't know. It's the unknown. And we'll be making our assessments in training camp in the preseason, obviously, but that's also different because this is a coaching staff that has leaned on youth in a very limited fashion through the first 6 or 7 years of McDermott's tenure here.
Yeah, and they don't all of them. All of them will be great. We know that right now. We don't know which ones will be. Some will be great. And with this group and with this talent evaluators, most will be good. Most of these young guys will be good, but they won't all be great. So that accounts for the transition they'll have. That's why they're going to have stuff to toe a few times, especially first half of the season.
Yeah, and as we move towards this, we also know, too, there's a new defensive coordinator, and technically speaking, it's the third defensive coordinator in 3 years. Now, their defense has never dropped out, but if Sean McDermott has shown us anything as a head coach, one of his strengths is getting the most out of who's on his roster. He did it in 2017 with a drought roster and got them to the playoffs. And this team will be very different at the end of the year than it will be at the beginning. And how far do you think they can go, Eric, with this group, with their youth and some probably added athleticism from a year ago when they were a little bit longer in the tooth? How much can Sean McDermott squeeze out of this defensive roster?
Yeah, I think it's a Super Bowl caliber roster again, and it starts with 17. You got a top 2 quarterback in the NFL who's going to put you in a winning position in most games you play in. He's got plenty of playoff experience. The coaching staff now has a bunch of playoff experience. I think this is a Super Bowl caliber roster. And yes, we're going to have to figure it out, who's playing in the secondary, who's going to start at safety. There's some other decisions that are going to have to be made. Who's going to be the primary targets at receiver? What are these roles going to be? But I like the chances of this Bills team to get to the playoffs, to advance to the Super Bowl this year. I think they truly have that much talent on the roster, and where they may have some slow starts in games. I remember early in my career, sometimes it was harder to start fast in games early in my career because you're kind of getting used to it. You're gaining that experience, but by the end of your rookie year, you're hitting the ground running. And so, yes, there may be some bumps along the road. There may be some more big plays in the secondary than we're used to seeing. There may be some of those things, but I just truly think that this is maybe as talented of a roster as we've seen as of late. And then there's X factors all over the place when you consider, okay, is Von Miller going to regain his form? How's Matt Milano going to come off that injury? Terrell Bernard got dinged up last year. If those guys can all get back to form, this could be another really special defense. And then we obviously know what this offense can be. And look, yes, they move on from Diggs and Davis, but the last 5 weeks of the season, they did a lot without those two guys on the offensive side of the football. And then they've also added a bunch of talent at the receiver position. So I'm excited about what this team looks like for this year.
Yeah. Murph, I know we hope to see you out at training camp. Is there anything that's at the top of your list that you're most intrigued to kind of evaluate and witness?
I think the health of Von Miller is key, and I think it may not be strong right off the bat, but he got to be ready to play. And I think Matt Milano's recovery should be important too. I think we need, a couple weeks in, we're going to need to know is Milano okay. But there are a lot of parts on offense that are new parts, and going to have to find a place for those guys. And the back end of the defense is key too, and I don't know how that's going to play out.
Eric Wood, John Murphy, guys, you were such a great team in the booth. Thank you so much for spending some time with us in a day and in a season where we're talking a lot about the transition on the roster. The transition in the booth has been seamless because of you two guys and your grace and your wisdom and your help. Thanks for everything you've done for us. Murph, thanks for everything you have done and everything you're going to do in the future. Thanks so much for being a part of the Bills family now and in the coming weeks.
Thank you. Good luck, Brownie. Have fun, Brownie.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for taking some time today.